Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We've just set up systems, put everything in place, just waiting for everybody to join us. And then we will obviously start with our session. If you are arriving and you're coming, just please type in the chat where you're from, where you're coming from. We'd love to hear from you. If you've seen me before or met me before, please say hi. I've met so many wonderful family members and people over this whole time being part of the Mind and Body Spirit show. So I must say you meet a lot of people who become your family. And then we should be ready to go soon. What I'm going to just ask everyone to do is if you have any questions, if you could maybe hold off and pop them towards the end so I can read them or catch up with them. And tonight we're looking at the power of manifesting what you really want, especially what to do when it doesn't work and how it can help you. So I'm looking forward to serve everybody tonight. And obviously get your cup of coffee, your drinks, and I'll be starting in the next minute or so, as they say. A little bit about myself while we're waiting for everybody there. My name is Justine. I'm originally from South Africa, Cape Town. And I absolutely love everything and anything to do with spirituality and art specifically. And we moved here in 2006, it was. So it was a huge transition for us to come over. And I've been landing up, I've had the opportunity to work with some very interesting leaders. I've worked with Andrea McLean. She's one of the journalists on, was it Women's Loose Women. She was one of the journalists on there. And I've had opportunity of working with high empowered entrepreneurs like Neo, which is really interesting. Neo Ross, he's a very interesting entrepreneur to work with. And then I've had the opportunity to work with amazing teachers who are children and who constantly keep me humble. So I've had so much experience working through everybody and with everyone that's helped me shape where my life is now. And so obviously it wasn't all peaches. It wasn't all, this is a wonderful, amazing experience. So, when I talk to people, they go, oh, you look like you are pretty happy. You look like you've got everything, all your ducks in a row. And I go, yes, definitely wasn't like that to begin with. I remember just a bit of a background side of myself. I remember researching, going through a lot of trial and error, taking what I work with and how I work with people, and just feeling quite low when people didn't believe in me. And I landed up realizing that people were not believing me because I wasn't believing in myself. So I was starting to see the cycle of how the mirror is a definite world, and how we really stop manifesting, and how we actually are really powerfully manifesting unbeknown to ourselves where we are doing this, how we're doing this. So I remember COVID had just been announced, and all the people that I'd been working with in person basically went into flat panic, and they went, we can't see you anymore, we can't see you anymore, we can't see you anymore. So like one after the other, they were dropping off. And I just remember sitting there going lower and lower and lower, and going, oh my God, I'm going to be losing my whole business in the space of 10 minutes. What now? And I just remember sitting there, and then the next students coming and going, sorry, we're leaving. We've just lost our family, or this or that. And I remember sitting there at this point, and I was becoming angry. And the more a student came in saying we're leaving, the more I felt like I was a failure, because it was like everything was crashing down on me. And I was spiraling down so quickly that I started thinking, well, what's the whole point? Does manifestation actually work? Is it serving? Is it how does it work? I remember running around the bedrooms, jumping up and down, screaming and shouting, stomping around. And I got to that lowest point where I sat down. I went, well, there's a choice I've got here. Obviously, I was crying through tears out of frustration, and going, until I make these changes, this turning point is here to help me see that until you feel you have lost everything and been backed in a corner, that's kind of really the decision that you decide to have a life, to turn your life around. And I remember sitting there thinking, are we going to lose our home? Are we going to be able to eat? Are we going to have all these things? And just all these fears came up. that, and the media and everything. So can imagine it was just a huge unraveling of emotions. So I then started actually really thinking about what do I want and what is the power of manifestation, because I remember going, well, I need to be positive. I need to be positive. I must try to be positive. And I must, try these techniques. And then I would try them for a day or two, and then I would kind of fall off of it, or I'd get bored, or other things would step in and take over, or I'd go, I need to be positive. I need to be positive. And the more I was positive, the more I'd have a backlash, and then I'd be more positive, and then I'd land up being this nervous wreck from being positive down, positive down, positive down, and I just thought, well, surely there must be some other way. What other way is there to help me with this power of manifestation? So I then signed up to other people who had a different outlook about manifestation and what manifestation actually was. And there was a lot of things that I realized, that clearly I have been manifesting my whole life. I just had not realized how I had been manifesting all the time. And we're not told, or how I got out of it is that we're told that we must put our past fears, and put that all to side. Every time we have a negative thought, immediately push it to the side, and that's not going to serve you. So you need to push it to the side. And I started realizing the more I did this, the more I had those negative thoughts. So I started actually using the techniques and taking it a deeper level and looking more into the research behind the power of manifestation. What does it mean? And I found some things and discovered some things which I'm applying now. My life now, from where I was back then to now, is I am literally fully booked. I have a team now that I manage. I have people calling me constantly, daily. We've branched out, that we've actually moved on to the high street now. We're connecting. We're about to build an app that's going to go live online. It's called The Power of the Mind. Not The Power of the Mind, sorry. It's called Paint Yourself into Mindfulness. It's obviously connected to the power of the mind. And there's just so much turnaround that's happened, that I sit back and look back 2 years, and I'm really glad I had that experience to kind of wake up my perception around the power of manifestation. So I'm going to give you this formula today to see what's actually going on in your world. Now, what I like about this technique is that it can help you in any area of your life. So it can help you in your relationships. It can help you in finances. It can help you in physical. If you want to change physically, it can help you in your friendships, in having children, all these kinds of things. And I'm going to give you examples of where I've actually used it in each part of my life and how it is transformed. So the first thing we need to kind of look at is just a few things of what you're doing, why it doesn't work, and let's look at the backstory behind that. So the first thing is, we all have this goal, and we all go, right, I want to manifest this now. And we go, okay, that's what I want. So I'd like to either, I don't know, own a home, or be married, or have this or have that. And that's great. I've got this goal where I want to go. And then I sit and I go, but there's absolutely no opportunity for me to get it. Or I either land up working hard, or I put something in place, or I try and be positive, and then I'm always hitting a brick wall every direction I turn to. So it's looking at what is that place, and why does that come up? Why does that block? Why does that brick wall keep coming up and hitting you when you're trying to put in manifestation techniques? So the first thing is, on step one, it's looking at about you being in a place of genuine gratitude when you are asking for something. Now, that's all good and well, saying, well, okay, I'm grateful for this, so therefore I'm grateful for my life, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And you can hear the way I'm speaking quite on the surface, and I'm speaking on the surface level of, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for this. But it's actually being in a deep sense of gratitude that helps you really unlock your manifestation parts of yourself. So what I say to people is, how do you do this? So how can you get into that form of gratitude? I say to you, first of all, to just sit down for a moment and forget about whatever's going on in the world, forget about what's going on around you. And I want you to just think of an opportunity or an experience you experienced where you actually felt tears of gratitude coming through your eyes. And it's almost like you have a tear at the back of your eyeball, and really try and take yourself to that place, because at some point in your life you have experienced that deep sense of appreciation when something in your life has turned around. So for me personally, it's my daughter. The first day she was born, we've been waiting for her for a very long time. And even speaking about it, you can hear how my tone of my voice has changed. You can hear how all of a sudden my heart's opening, and you can already sense and feel that I already feel my eyes welling up just with gratitude, just thinking about her, because she means so much to me and my husband. So that's the place you want to be in before you even ask for your manifestation. And if you're not getting those tears, then you're not open yet to ask for your manifestation. The second step is doing a form of movement that excels your breath. I find it's now you can do either you can do the movement before, or you can do the breath before. I mean the place of gratitude before. It doesn't really matter. It's just taking to that place of opening your heart. So when I talk about movement, it's something that would raise your heart rate a little bit. Now, if you can't move, there's another step that I've put in place that can help you. Now, generally, when I say about form of movements, I talk about what frees you up, what gets you up and going, that you enjoy it. And it can be even just taking the dog for a walk. It can be just going for a walk yourself. It can be just sitting by the beach. It can be, dancing a bit in the kitchen, or whatever that is. Or if you do your aerobic workout or whatever that is, your form of movement that would suit you and your body. So if that helps. Then if you can't physically move, there's another option that you can do, and it's your short in and out breath process very quickly, and you do that for a minute. So I'll just show you how I'm going in and out my mouth, going and I'm just going in and out my mouth for a good minute. If you can even go to a minute is kind of enough, because it just takes you to that place of getting the oxygen to your blood corpuscles and your body, and just helping you there. So step one was being in a place of gratitude, feeling your eyes welling up with pure love and inspiration. And the second one was do your form of movement. Step three, we're now looking at check if your brain needs to destruct or construct. And how do you do this? Now, this is a step that I've been researching for over 25 years through trial and error with my children clients and adult clients. And the main thing that we do is we get into a system of work, do, job, routine, structure. And we do this every day. And what happens every day, we burn ourselves out. And we're doing this without realizing the impact that we have on ourselves when we're doing these structures every day. It can also be the opposite, where you're doing absolutely nothing every day and you're not feeling fulfilled and you burn out. Now, that's what we call an overstimulation of your brain, and it's generally your left brain. So what tends to happen is we bring in something that can just stimulate your brain together to work together as a team, so that you can start getting into your places of gratitude. And there's what we call constructive. So constructive is where you have an end result, because you're building on something with an outcome. And generally, it can be building sandcastles, it can be building an image, it can be building an app or building a program, or whatever work you do. Think about what you're doing, how you construct it daily, and how there's an outcome. If you're doing sports and you're even doing your aerobic workout, you're following a step-by-step process. Now, what I say to people is, where can you introduce your destructive process? And the destructive process is time where your brain is not thinking, how do I get to the end result? Your brain is thinking, what can I do just to not follow the rules? What can I do to just be a kid and unravel and play? So I say to people, if you're going to go for swimming and you're swimming in your lanes, where can you be creative swimming? So, for instance, a lot of children, and if you don't know how, learn from children, because they pretend they're mermaids and then they start coming up with all these series of different games and things that they're working on. If you are dancing and you're following steps, where can you break the rules in dancing? If you are baking, where can you follow the recipe and change the recipe and experiment and explore and see what comes out of that? If you love gardening, pulling out weeds, things like that. It really is quite simple things that if you give yourself an hour a day, get your mind into a reset process so you can actually just switch off from this constant back end routine and structure happening all the time. Now, why do we need this? It's so important for our brains to have downtime, because if you don't have this, then you're letting the outside world rule you, run you, and your goals are not having enough time to breathe for you to authentically be present, to actually set those goals, to think before you take action, to move the next steps as you go ahead. So it gives your brain a reset after controlling and constructing the whole day. So step number 3 is check if your brain needs to destruct from the day. Step 4, it's about visualization. So I'm sure you've heard about this already, and I didn't really understand the power of visualization until I actually had my daughter. So I'll give you a bit of a backstory there. We were told we couldn't have children, and we were told that it's just obviously impossible. So I said, okay, that's fair enough. But we were asked, do we want to be part of a program to test and trial to see if this IVF and PGD works. Now, PGD is when they take parts of the chromosomes and they test for those parts of those chromosomes, because we had a beautiful little boy birthed before, and he decided to transverse into another angel before he stayed on the planet. And they did tests on his bodies, and they found out that we had imbalanced chromosome 21 or 27 or something like that. And they said, well, we're going to take this, we're going to put it together, and we're going to see if it works. And in that moment, I realized it was important to visualize and actually draw and have clear steps of exactly what I wanted at each stage and be really detailed. So when you're visualizing just having a baby, okay, you're visualizing having a baby, but you're not looking at all the details and the steps that you would help you actually get to have that baby, which is so important. So I went back to basics, and I first of all drew my ovaries and my womb, and I just drew my eggs as healthy, and I wrote all these affirmations around, just looking and going, my eggs are healthy, my womb is healthy, everything's fine. And I just kept on going through this every day. And then when I went to the next step, the injections are fine, my body easily takes them, my body is healed, everything's fine, and I drew a healthy body. Then when they did the implantation of the eggs to sit in the womb, I just said, thank you that the eggs connect, and thank you that they are whole. And I drew the whole egg, I drew the little baby inside the egg, and the eggs were healthy. Then I drew the egg inside when they implemented the egg, and I manifested, and I just drew, and I looked at it. If I couldn't draw, I got pictures, and I just printed off and said, thank you that it's there, thank you that it's there, while putting in step 1, 2, and 3 before I drew these out. Then obviously each step from where I went to, we'll end up having a beautiful, healthy baby girl who's now 7 years old. So the visualization, a lot of people, I'm realizing where they go wrong is they're visualizing the end result, but they're not visualizing the steps in between to get them to that end result. And that can seem really overpowering. It can seem very scary. And then you just want to give up and you go, well, what's the point of me manifesting this? So I'm not going to even look into this. So step 5 is you do step 1 again. After you've looked at your visualizations, after you've put that in place, check in again. Do you still have that sense of gratitude? Do you still have that overwhelm of remembering, what you have been given in parts of your life? Step 6. Now, when fear kicks in, this is a very interesting process. To note it down, write it out, and make a note, because there's unfinished work that needs love and healing there. And I'm going to speak to you more about that in a moment, but it's just for you to take note. What is a fear? What what is it? It's that little voice in the head that questions and goes, there's no ways you could do this. It's not working now. It's not working in the time frame I want. But what if I do this and I fail? But what if this happens? And also, the fear is other people influencing and talking to you about how wrong you are on this journey. And this was a very, very interesting process that if I even looked at, like when I was going through the IVF process with my daughter, I, in the end, actually asked my husband and my mother-in-law to step away and to not be present when I was manifesting, because they were in fear, but out of love, because they wanted to protect me. So they were like, around me all the time and distracting my mind to not be focused on the manifestation and the pure gratitude. So when I actually asked them if they could step away, that just helped me get into that mindset and just focus every day on this so that it would manifest. Um, and then, like I said, so you take that fear, you write it down, and you make a note of it. And then I'll show you, well, obviously, I'll explain to you where that fear comes from. And then step number 7 is do an activity that challenges you, that you can break through what you thought you could never achieve. So the activity helps you to take a step forward and face things unconsciously, confidently, that you start questioning that limiting thought that you've been having. So, for example, I remember we went to Kango Caves. It's at Cheddar in Cheddar, and we signed up to do all these activities. And the one thing we had signed up to do was to go in the caves, and then you had to walk on, these tight areas there, and these back ends. So we walked along that, and then I think, oh my God, I really don't like the dark. So this is a fear that I'm going to be facing, and it was whether I choose to do this. And I was just, come on, let's just reason myself through this and ask, who's around me, who's protecting me, all these things. And anyways, I can actually see myself panicking. And then we've got to climb through these tight spaces and crawl through it. And I'm going, well, I'm not 20 years old anymore. How the hell am I going to do this? And I'm sitting there going, well, I have to crawl through this because there's no other way. I can't go back. I can only go forward now. So, and I just went slower and I just did one arm at a time. And I'm saying to my husband, I don't know if I could do this. He's panicking because we're getting smaller and smaller in between these two caves. And then we get to the end and they go, right, now you got to jump in this black hole and hold this rope and go down. And he's like, and who's going to go first? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's at the bottom? And he's like, yeah, you'll be fine. It's just, you'll you know how to stop it, you know how to do, swing down. I'm going, oh my gosh. I went, no, let me just do this. So I did it, and I actually jumped in, and I jumped in the hole. I was the first one, and I did it. Got to the bottom, I felt myself breathing through it the whole time. And then I got to the bottom. I went, I did this. I actually did this. I did it. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So it's just showing you that, those little activities you do that push yourself a little bit comfortably helps you to let go of these unconscious words that people talk and put on you to tell you that things are not working or not good enough or all these areas. So let's review those steps again. So step 1 is be in a place of gratitude. And remember to remember something that brings those tears behind your ears for gratitude. Step 2, do a form of movement that excels your breath. Or if you can't do that, you can do the quick in and out breathing. Step 3, check if your brain needs to destruct or construct. So what activity can you do that's not work, not cleaning, not anything around your normal life that can help you just destruct your brain? We went through some examples like baking, gardening, meeting up with friends, or whatever that is. Step 4, visualizing and putting pictures and images together. But remember, yes, it is the end image result, but it's the steps in between to get you to the end result of what your goal is that you're visualizing. Step 5, do step 1 again. So check in again. Are you in that place of gratitude? And then step 6, when your fear kicks in, note it down, make a note of it, put it to the side to deal with it later. And then step 7, do activities consistently and regularly that will challenge you to push yourself to that next level comfortably. Okay, so that's the sum up of the 7 steps that can just, the formula that can help you with your manifestation. How have I been using it myself? I use it constantly, and I'm having really great results. I'm able to meet people that are beyond my even thought and that I would ever get to this point. And I'm even going, that's pretty cool because I actually got to do things I never thought were even possible. So that's the basic 7-step formula. Now I'm just going to also show you in what part of the areas of my life I've done it. So like I said to you, with the IVF process, I did this whole process and I manifested obviously my daughter, which was very important to us, obviously, as you can tell. And then the other one was manifesting my husband. That was a very interesting process because it was looking at what do I want in a man and or in a partner. What do I want in this partner, and am I prepared to wait before, how would I know this person is for me? All these kinds of things. And I would sit down and I'd think, okay, so what would I like in this partner? What kind of traits would I like? But so how would this person help me grow? How could we grow together? And that when we came together, that when there was challenges, it you just knew you would get through it, kind of thing, because you were prepared to take on those challenges. And I met my husband after a month of manifesting, and we got engaged after 3 months after knowing each other. 6 months later, we were married. The next month, we immigrated to the UK, and we've been married for 16, coming up for 17 years. So that was definitely a powerful manifesting technique to see that this stuff really works. Um, and obviously, you're hearing about the things of what I have manifested, of what I want, but also you're not hearing the parts where I've manifested what I don't want, which has been really interesting. And how do you get out of that? What do you do? And sometimes, I looked back and I saw the the partners I had manifested before my husband. I had brought them into my life to teach me very important, life experiences, and to teach me where I'm not loving myself. And the one thing that a lot of us do not realize is how our triggers actually serve us and are very much a part of who we are and are so important to happen in our life. So there's actually a talk that John Demartini does, and he talks about how every trigger is a clear mirror of what you are and what you or where you have done it somewhere. Now, hear that again. Every person and every trigger is a clear mirror of what you are doing, have done somewhere, or have become. It's not a question of where am I, or is that possible? It's a question of where is it and in what form. And understanding what that trigger is so important and vital in order for you to release unconscious blocks. And the unconscious blocks generally land up being either shame or guilt, and especially sometimes a perception of loss, what you feel you have lost in life. And if you don't know what those blocks are, those blocks lead your life, and they continue to push you to make decisions based on those blocks that you're carrying unconsciously. Now, I didn't understand this at all until I really started doing the work on myself and actually working with my coach and really started unraveling these blocks. The What I realized is that it's so much easier to blame. It's so much easier to put and point the finger at somebody else. It is so much easier. And I can see where I've done it. I can see where I even now still do it. But I'm a lot more aware of when I'm doing it and how I'm taking accountability for it. And I remember we had immigrated here, and my sister-in-law and I really hit heads. We just brought our triggers in each other. And I blamed her for everything. I said everything was her fault, everything was her. Yet she was just a mirror of mirroring everything that I was. And it was looking, where was I that, and how had I become that? Now, there's a very inspirational story that John Demartini actually says, and he says this lady in one of his chapters of his book, The Breakthrough Experience, which I highly recommend to get. And he says to this lady, she basically, her son had been murdered, and she could not see how she was a murderer. And she was going, first of all, this is just ridiculous. How can you even think that I would have that capability of murdering anyone? And he said to her, it's not a question of how you're doing it, it's a question of what form are you doing it in, and where are you doing the same thing. So she still couldn't get it, and she was really frustrated. And he said, what kind of work do you do? And she was a judge and a prosecutor. And he said, well, who do you prosecute? And she says, well, I now, because of all this information I studied, and I prosecute young men and women who commit crimes, and I'm there to keep the law. And he said, that's very interesting. He said, and what do you prosecute them on? He said, well, I prosecute them on crime, on murders, on all these things. He said, okay. He said, so what do the families of these boys and children and people say to you when you prosecute them in front of the families? And she said, well, they call me a murderer. And it just sunk with her, and she realized, okay, I am, in somebody's perception, a murderer, but it's in a different form. So it's looking at those triggers are actually serving you so well, and it's looking at in what form are they and where are those blocks. And if you don't know what those blocks are, those blocks unconsciously drive your manifestations. And it's such a powerful mindful experience. It really is interesting, because also understanding the word about positivity. If you are going to be positive all the time, you're going to attract the opposite to humble you and to keep you in balance. And life is all about support and challenge. So it's like if you have a battery, and on the one side is a positive and one side is a negative, they can't work together unless those two are connected. And if you try and put a positive with a positive or negative with a negative, they just don't join. Sorry, not the battery, the magnet. So it's the same thing of when we work through our emotions, when we are putting ourselves out there, we are basically only looking to be one side of ourselves instead of embracing the other part of us that makes us whole and complete as a human being. So that's part of the blocks that blocks your manifestation. The other parts that block manifesting is, which is really, really fascinating, is your life experiences that you've learned as children, the limiting parts that other people have played, and their roles of how they've educated you. Now, look at how I'm changing the wording to educating you, because by the time we become older, we think, okay, therefore that must be 100% right. And we don't challenge that later. And we forget that we actually have the choice to change that. So it's looking at what are those unconscious blocks that drive you for your manifestations. So if you look at everything in your life now, you have co-created it. You have been the part of you've been the driving seat the whole time. And it was quite hard for me to swallow, because I'm going, yeah, but then how did I manifest certain things that happened to me in South Africa? How did I manifest certain crimes and things that happened? And how is that possible? It's when you sit down and really understand what is going on in your mind, what are your current triggers now, that's going to help you unblock and unravel what you are unconsciously manifesting now in this world. So I'll give you another example. I wanted to manifest a place on the high street, and the immediate jump was, well, I don't have the money to set up the business, because I have to have money in my bank account to set this up. So do you notice already that is a limiting thought process mindset already of, I have to have this in place before I do it? And my coach said, well, who told you you have to? And I went, well, how am I supposed to run a business on the high street? And he went, okay. He said, well, if you really want to, you will find a way. And I sat with it, and I thought, and something in my head said, go and phone this person that I know and just ask for a bit of help. And they said, okay, I know somebody, talk to this person. And they were a financial director, and they said to me, okay, so have you gone to your bank for a loan? I said, yeah, the business account wouldn't allow. Said, well, ask for a personal loan. I went, I can't get a personal loan. She said, but look what you're manifesting. Look what you're saying. Where's that unconscious block coming from? Who said you couldn't? And I really sat down and thought, well, she's right. She's, where is this all coming from? So, anyways, I went and I did some work first on the manifestation, the 7 steps I put in place, worked on it. And I had also been every night doing another manifestation. I will, if I've got my phone, I will actually get it up for you. And it's called, um, I played this every night, and it was an amazing manifestation. And I just played this every night, and I'll actually meditation for manifesting. And the lady's her name is Jessica Heslop. Jessica Heslop. And I played this every night for a good 2 months. I played it every night before I went to bed, and I've just visualized. But I went to the steps where I told you, where I look at everything before I get to the end result. And I saw myself in the space I wanted. I saw myself how much space I wanted, how much I'm teaching. So I landed up finding a place up for rent, and it was on the high street. And I'm going, I've got to have this place. This is how I'm already in my mind thinking what I can do. And yet the doors weren't opening from the universe. I'm going, okay, why are the doors not opening? Not what is happening to me, but what is happening for me in order to move me. If I just sit and listen, then my manifestation is going to unravel. So eventually I get hold of this estate agent, and he says to me, look, I know you're looking at this place, but come with me quickly because I have a place you might be interested in. Don't look at the setup now, but just come with me. I'm sitting going, okay, fine, I'll come with you. Let's just see what this is about. Anyways, he says, well, this is actually here. Um, and if you take this place is actually right at the end. You've got your own door access, you've got your own kitchen access, you've got parking as much as you want. It's not limited, where the other place was limited. And then, the fee is what I had been manifesting every month. And I said, okay, fine, that's great, thank you. And I'm still questioning it. I'm thinking, I don't know if this is right. Well, anyways, it turns out, had I taken the other high street place, I would have had to pay more in taxes on being on that side of the high street, more in electrical bills, more in other supporting fees that you would need to pay in order to be on the high street. Where the place I'd been offered now is basically all that's covered in the rent. So when you have the idea of the manifestation, when you have the idea of what you want, it's so important to think of all the details beforehand before you get to the end result. And then I panicked. I started thinking, well, how am I going to bring in income? How am I going to bring in clients? What am I going to do? And I was given another powerful technique by bringing in clients, and how to uh, actually attract clients in there without just jumping into this mindfulness or unmindful thinking of, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So those are all the techniques that I hope I've been explaining loads of back to show you how I live it and apply it daily in my life now. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a special for today, that obviously I'm at the mindfulness mind and body spirit show in May. So come and say hi, come and have a chat with me. We're running specials. There are one-off sessions that you can book for only special rate for mind and body spirit people who've watched this. You can get in contact with me and book with me directly. Or just come and chat with me and say hello. And obviously you can book on there. There's loads of different ways that I can help you just unravel all those frustrating emotions, frustrating parts that you're holding on to. That's the blocks that are driving your manifestation. So let's just go over again one more time with the 7-step formula of what I do, so I can just help you. So step 1 is be in a genuine place of gratitude. Bring the tears to your eyes, and that's how you know you're in your open gratitude. Step number 2, do your form of movement that excels your breath, something free and flowing, and if you can't, breathe in and out fast through your mouth. Step 3, check if your brain needs to destruct or construct. And if you've been following a daily routine, work routine every day, generally your brain needs to destruct. What can you unravel? Where can you break the rules? What can you do that can just stop being constructive? Step number 4, visualize, draw, get pictures, put them together, but not only of the end result, of all the steps in between. Almost have a freeze frame, like a memory you're building up, or even a movie reel of what is going to happen to get you to that end result. Because then when you're open, you will see that opportunity. and it will come to you at the perfect timing. Step 5, do step 1 again. Always check in your place of gratitude. Step 6, when your fear kicks in, write it off, and then start checking in where your unconscious block is driving that manifestation. And step 6, I can help you with, definitely. So, whatever you're working on to manifest. Step 7, do an activity that challenges you to take you to your next level, just gently pushing yourself out of that comfort zone. So those are the 7 steps over there. Just quickly, there's one more thing that I'm going to say here. So you can obviously check me out on artbehaviour.com, www.artbehaviour.com. You can check us out on Facebook. We also, like I said, we build in the app. So for the mind and body spirit people, we are doing a wonderful, wonderful, very reduced joining fee that basically gives you courses in your area where you want to excel. There'll be weekly uploads from activities to help your mind deconstruct, from creative activities to meditations, to visualizations, to live talks with me, to tracking your progress. And there's a community that we have, a hub, and there's loads of information for people to share their knowledge and resources and everything that you've done there. And I obviously, just get in contact with us. And then we're also on Instagram as well, Art Behaviour. And as always, I'm absolutely honored to serve and help you tonight. And I look forward to everybody obviously connecting with me. If anybody wants to drop any questions in the chat, please do so. And then I'd be happy to have a chat with you. And while we're waiting for the questions, I can just tell you where else I've manifested in other areas. So the other areas that we manifested on was so I've spoken about the child, the husband, the business, the house has been pretty awesome. The first things I just kept saying is I always easily find the perfect home that I want and in the perfect area. And that has been phenomenal. Let me tell you, I've been tested by when we first arrived in the UK, and we were like, oh my gosh, there's nowhere to go. Where do we go? So we started saying we easily find places, we easily find homes, put the 7 steps into place, and we found a place literally by the bus stop. And then in that one, it was like, okay, we knew this was just a time being for now. And then we went, okay, thank you for the next place. Thank you for the next manifestation. Started thinking what we wanted, how we wanted it, all the steps in between. And bam, we had somebody say, oh, I've got a place. Here you go. And then we were like, okay, this is cool. And then we wanted to buy our first place. So same step process came in. Bam, we got what we needed, and we got the deposit, we got everything. And what was even phenomenal was that the person who sold us the house left us their flat screen TV, their DVD player, their fridge, their washing machine, everything, that the basics we needed to get set up and started. And we were going, how's that for manifesting? That is just phenomenal. It was like beyond manifesting, really. It was so funny. And then we decided to move, and we moved to the coast because we love the ocean. And again, manifested the same place, and then also manifested the place not for us because we were in fear. So we moved into this place, and we were going, oh shoot, we manifested the place out of fear. And then we got back onto track and going, okay, so let's manifest what we really want. Again, somebody helped us, moved us out, said, you don't have to pay a deposit. Don't worry, come move in here. And that has been just the house side of manifesting, which has been really inspiring, just to see how you are the driver of your manifesting, which is just phenomenal. Then we're looking at work. So how I manifested the work that I actually love to do, and to make sure I'm paid, all these areas. And it is the same thing. I just had an idea of where I want to work, more or less, trial and error. And the thing is, looking back now, going to all these places where I didn't enjoy it, I learned so much in order to know what I wanted, because sometimes you don't know what you want, but you know what you don't want. You don't know what you want, but you know what you don't want. So that then, by going to these places, helped push me back onto my authentic pathway of where am I going and what do I actually want to do. Anyways, it's been Justine here from artbehavior.com. Please come and say hi. Come and take a look at our stand. In May, we're going to be there. And much love and gratitude to everybody who's joined me tonight.